Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. This is DGI 448 and joining me is Sridhar Chityalaji. We have some very interesting breaking news as India and Taiwan have finally or formally signed an accord whereby India will be supplying workforce to Taiwan. That is the main takeaway, but there is many other things that we are going to be touching on, especially the role of the CIA in spying for a government against a presidential candidate. How legal is that? So that is the question that we'll be answering today. Let's welcome Sridhar Chityalaji. Sridharji, namaskar and welcome to P Guru's channel.
Namaskar, good morning and good evening to you, and welcome to India, Sriji. I gather that you are in India.
Yes, indeed, sir. I'm in India. It's cold. I can't wait to get to more warmer climates. I've been coming from a cold place to a colder or probably equally cold place. So I'm looking forward to warm climes, sir. So let's start with what is happening with this one interview that Tucker Carlson did of Vladimir Putin. This one, Putin comes back and says that he didn't ask me tough enough questions. And then Navalny dies. Is there any correlation between this interview and Navalny's death, sir?
No, I think that the first let's just focus on the interview. It's quite amazing as to you can see two strands of America. So, which is people generally classify it as West. There's a West with woke. There's a West with center and right. Okay, so West is divided into two halves. So let's take a look at the views of the West from a left point of view, right? From a left point of view, if anybody can Google and anybody can find out, you can see unanimous kind of views. Doesn't matter whether it is in Europe or whether it is in Asia or whether it is in the United States. The views are this interview should not have been conducted. It is an unmitigated disaster. Tucker Carlson, who is a renowned journalist, comes out like a fish out of water, and he has been taken to the cleaners by Vladimir Putin. This is the left view, a unanimous view, and including Council for Foreign Relations and Carnegie Foundation. That's where Mr. William Burns comes from. So you have these views which you can read, and I don't know what the Indian pundits' view on the Vladimir Putin is because it's Russia. But at the end of the day, Vladimir Putin was trying to deliver a message to the conservatives. He's trying to deliver a message, reacting the history and stop the funding. Ukraine is an unwarranted war. You are the only guys, who can stop this. You kept away from trouble in the past. So I'm appealing to you and to your vast audiences. That's, Vladimir Putin's view. He believes that he was more focused on that rather than to the left wing. He was also fairly assertive that he doesn't believe that there's anything that he can achieve by dealing with the West because the West has lost its way. So there is nothing that Russia is going to achieve. So he would go the alternate route, which is why you have these relationships with China, Iran, and so on and so forth. So that seems to be his kind of very clear message. So as far as Vladimir is concerned, he seems to be delivering a message. How credible his message is, one can question in terms of the various facets that he dwelt on, but he kind of made himself very clear to the world, and at least to that extent, Tucker Carlson succeeded in hearing directly the view of not that he's going to persuade any voters to change, depending on where, most importantly, United States, where the elections are going to be held. As far as Tucker Carlson is concerned, he didn't want to take an assertive position. He played by the kind of the fiddle, and he was willing to be, kind of be the man who will take the hit. But he got what he wanted to get out of it, notwithstanding the fact many believe that he did not. So that's my kind of take and observation on this. And notwithstanding the giving historical lessons, Vladimir Putin didn't say anything about what he is doing to his opposition and those who contested against him, including the Navalny death, which occurred during that period of time. Is it coincidental, or was it meant to kind of deliver a message which is, this is all part of the process and doesn't matter? And I think that message also came through very clear. And the media did not cover enough from what the West and Western governments thought about the death of the opposition leader. you can kind of further elaborate, Sriji, but there's very almost no protest from anywhere in the world on his death.
Yes, very true, sir, very true. And it's very sad because Navalny was poisoned first. He had escaped to Western Europe, and then they jailed him and dragged him back. And I think the West was complicit in allowing him to go. I mean, this was a case of, where he had already been poisoned. This is like a few years ago. So this is very, very sad how Putin gets rid of all his opponents. Uh, I mean, I don't know what to say, sir. These people are alien. Democracy is alien to them, but they still say that they are democratic. They hold elections. It's all a farce. Anyway, so I think Russia deserves better, but I don't know when that better thing is going to happen. Well, sir, the more important thing, the 6 to 10 inches, whichever is the size, because the binder has not been traced yet. But there is some information. There was a binder. That binder contains all details of what John Brennan, as the director of CIA under the Obama administration, did towards the end of the second term of Obama, like I think August 2016, to try and discredit or to find some way to, throw mud at the 22 odd people who were part of the Trump campaign. You can agree
Exactly.
with it, not agree with it, but the fact remains that there is anecdotal. Now I think there's more proof even that five eyes were involved, and they were asked to provide the dump on these people. Sridharji, when did CIA start playing sides, sir?
Well, they called it as under the Obama program, under the Obama government, and the under the Obama eyes. They called it as the. Let me give you the correct name. They called it as the Operation Hurricane. An
Hmm.
Operation Hurricane program was set up, and this program was to actually spy on all the aspects that is related to the President Trump or the presidential campaign of Trump. So this was a surveillance program that was set up under President Obama. And who is the person who was tasked to run? Mr. John Brennan. Now, according to FBI, this program is supposed to have begun, as you rightly point out, in August 2016. Actually, the program began based on the information gleaned by three journalists and by the oversight committee, which is investigating. It began as early as March 2016 to make sure that senator at that point of time, Hillary Clinton, would clinch, and they would kind of make president at that point of time, presidential candidate Trump, as well as presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. The bias is towards castigating Trump, based on that Russia is interfering and helping the case of Trump candidacy. Now, today, Hillary Clinton comes out again and states the NATO comments and funding by Trump is unwarranted and unmitigated risk. It continues to point out the animosity that exists between Hillary Clinton in this case, and Trump on the other side. So there's no surprise here. And by the way, how this surveillance program was based on what he called the anecdotal or hearsay evidence, John Brennan initiated this program. This binder is supposed to contain detailed catalog of all the things that occurred as part of that program. And this was the Mar-a-Lago search that was conducted in 2020 2020 by the DOJ and FBI, under the orders of DOJ by FBI, and they haven't still recovered the binder. So this information, remember, this information was declassified, hence it can be made public. So this declassified binder was was the one they were looking for, because that's missing. So Trump was not carrying any classified binders. This declassified binder is apparently what FBI was searching for. They feel that it would be very damaging if it gets revealed. Okay, that's one. The other point that is to notice, they even used Five Eyes. You know, the Five Eyes, New Zealand, Australia, UK, they're all part of this. Is this kind of surveillance program that is meant to keep an eye on everybody, notably China and Russia, but they were using it on on a presidential candidate within United States. I don't know how legal this is, but this is the level to which one party is willing to use its influence of the agencies at its disposal to, well, we say, to the detriment of the nation. It looks that way, Sriji.
Yes, indeed, sir. And what are all the things Hillary did to try and game the system? She had nominees for in the convention, which gave her a handicap of about 100 plus. I mean, that was the main reason why Bernie Sanders blew up. He said, "What kind of a nomination game is this?" And after that, she still could not win the presidency. I mean, what was the desperation for the Clintons to somehow make Hillary Clinton the president? I don't know what the thing was. I mean, to go to this extent seems ludicrous, Sridharji, because many of us felt that Trump was too new to be the president, which underlies that there was great resentment in states like Michigan and Wisconsin, which were solid blue Democratic states, which had turned away and voted for Trump. So there was clearly something that the Democrats read on the ground, and they probably wanted to somehow still come to power. And this time, of course, 2020 was a totally different script. Some big crook and scoundrel is running this whole machinery in the Democratic Party. I don't know, sir. That person or that group, that cabal needs to come out and be eliminated. Even for the Democrats, like you and I, we are still skeptical that the 2024 elections are going to be fair. And this is the biggest, most open democracy that we can think of in the entire world. And we both are doubting it because so many questions were raised in 2020 that were not answered satisfactorily. I have my doubts, Sridharji. I hope that my doubts are, that they are wrong and they are false. And I hope I'm wrong.
Let's hope so, Ji. I think based on all the things that we have seen thus far, I mean, this minder is a big issue. The January 6th investigation and the deletion of the files and denial of access to information revealing is a big issue. The whole aspects around the illegal infiltration across the border and the number of people who have come in is a big issue. The whole amount of funding, unfounded, unwarranted funding that has happened to look after these illegals is another big issue. The kind of the new program that they're trying to enact in terms of the what they call as the 5,000 people, the new immigration policy where they would allow 5,000 illegals to be given temporary permits is fraught with danger. There's no mechanism to the DACA as well as the existing close to 4 million illegals who have come in under Biden administration is a big issue. At last, Mayorkas got impeached, but nothing will come out. It's just a ceremonial thing that the Republicans have done. How far and how much of violations have occurred is a big issue. The funding of various activities that is taking place across the country in terms of the agitations that are going on the Palestinian aspect is another big issue. Over the weekend, we had protesters in front of Ted Cruz house. Now, where have these people come from in terms of saying, this is what it is? Then now we have free gangs from Venezuela to Mexico operating in the cities of New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., California. These are gangs which are operating, who have been allowed to come into the country. There's not one issue, but there's a series of issues, and nobody wants to talk about it. They only want to castigate the former President Trump. That seems to be the only agenda, because he seems to be the sitting duck, or he seems to be the big wall in terms of the unilateral wokeism to parade and prevail in United States. TG, that's all I can kind of conclude from here. That is why I believe, and you believe, that whether there would be fair and just conduct of elections in 2024.
Yes, indeed. And viewers, we'll come to India Taiwan Pact in just a moment. There is some more other things that are happening. Is Biden still the candidate of the Democrats for the 2024 elections, or is it going to be Michelle Obama? These rumors refuse to go away. Although now I think Gavin Newsom's candidacy seems to have taken a bit of a backseat. I don't know why. I think there is a Pelosi group who wants to push Gavin Newsom. So Sridharji, what do you make of this? Why? I mean, Biden one day seems to be okay. Next day again, he's back to being faltering, not remembering, not bungling with words. How can the greatest country on earth have a doddering president like this?
So, I don't know whether it's a joke or whether it is something to be ashamed of. Biden says Helmut Kohl called him on the 2020 January 6th incident. Helmut Kohl is dead. He was meaning Angela Merkel. Then he goes to Nevada and he says Francois Mitterrand called him, not Emmanuel Macron, on January 6th, 2020 incidents. This is just last week. And his polling numbers are 35%. So people are, I mean, he is feeding the fire, and is obviously the invisible hand is very clearly the hand of the former president, because most of the people, this is only anecdotal conclusion, we don't have evidence to point out, but most of the administration, be it Susan Rice, who ran and who has retired, be it many of the people from Sullivan to William
Sir, you're
Burns
being very kind. You're being very kind. Retired? I thought she was like, frog marched out of the White House.
So William Burns, by the way, and then you have Anthony Blinken, and so on and so forth. So who are all these people? They're all part of the former State Department. I mean, in Defense Department, you have absentia. We have the man is sick, is back in the hospital, Mr. Austin. So therefore, he's back in the hospital. So we have a deputy defense secretary. We don't have a defense secretary. So we have a whole kind of hodgepodge. And then you have, people coming out, and many of them are the former Obama supporters, and saying that, hey, you got to get out. You got to get out. You got to get out because you're not competent enough to be president for 4 more years, and you're going to bungle. Is obviously the invisible lady, in our view, is the candidate that they would prop up is Michelle Obama, who is going to be even further left to the left of Mr. Obama himself.
Sir, usually when you marry when you marry a Muslim, you have to convert to Islam. What is the status of the religion of Michelle Obama?
I think it is. I don't know, sir. I think that at least she has not claimed any religion, but my assumption is she's a Christian. But I don't think I've heard anything official. In terms of I've heard anything official, but it basically says that she is a Christian.
Sir, it is so funny for me that 40 years ago, United States had reservations about electing a Catholic for a president, John F. Kennedy. And here we are. I mean, we don't even know what religion Barack Hussein Obama was following.
Well, they always say his mother was a Christian, and he was raised Christian. That's the thing. And he always goes to the church with Michelle Obama and his 2 kids. So we have to go with it, Sriji.
Yes, that is true. US-China diplomats hold discussions on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference. Is it the message from Mr. Biden or whom? Sridharji, I have some additional information on this, but first you go ahead, sir.
First and foremost, I think it's come out that these discussions took place, and the discussion is now apparent that Mr. Wang Yi has said, or Dr. Wang Yi has asserted, go soft and lift all the bans on Chinese firms that you have imposed. That's a condition, and that's a direct message. Now, did Mr. Blinken say, yes, no worries, wait for some time and we'll do it? Or he's saying, try to help us out. But apparently, according to the press, Mr. Blinken said we need peace and status quo in South China Sea. We need peace and status quo in the Taiwan Strait. And we need more equanimous trade relationship and decoupling to the extent possible, rather than confrontation. This seems to be the message from Mr. Blinken on a whole range of issues. But Dr. Wang Yi's message is very clear: lift the ban, because that's a precondition for us to work together. Forget about Taiwan is not Taiwan is not negotiable, and South China Sea is not negotiable. Let's again go back. Tony Blinken was in the administration under Obama when Spratly Island sprang up, and when Obama sent, when air zone blockade was imposed, Obama allowed the across, and he told the commercial pilots not to interfere with the Chinese imposed ban. So you can clearly imagine that there is a message going from Dr. Wang Yi, and how much China is going to, not Russia, going to help, and what's going to happen seems to be the dynamics that is playing out here, because otherwise there's nothing material in terms of, because China is clearly hurt, economically hurt. And if you have not heard, Shriji, that there's a new set of Chinese illegals making their way, facing due economic hardships. They've said that there's a free passage if you get through Mexico. There's a whole bunch of Chinese illegals marching into United States, Shriji. I don't know how many of them are communists and how many of them are genuine people who are economically impacted as a result of the Chinese economic travails.
Next slide, please. India's finance minister meets the US Secretary of State and I think it's going to be foreign minister on the sidelines of the Munich conference. Yes, it was India's foreign minister. So a couple of things there I noticed. One is sitting by the side of Anthony Blinken, India reaffirmed its commitment to continue to buy oil from Russia. Some questions asked, some snarky, some good answers, I think, from Dr. Jaishankar. And I think these people are really getting slapped left, right, and center. Some of the media questions in Munich, my God, what? I mean, these are all people who have gone to the creme de la creme colleges, universities. They are supposed to be incredibly smart, and yet they come across as incredibly stupid. That's all I can say. This is my personal opinion. Anyway, sir, there was another interesting thing that was happening. There was one meeting going on between Wang Yi and somebody else, and Dr. Jaishankar happened to be in the audience, and Wang Yi asks Jaishankar to stay back, and then he has a conversation with him. Sir, a little birdie told me that little birdie came and told you what that conversation was all about.
Well, I think that the Dr. Wang Yi's position is how to kind of de-escalate and normalize, and how to bring about impetus to the BRICS agenda, and how to resume this BRICS currency dialogue, etc. So I don't believe that Dr. Jaishankar is going to bite into it. And by the way, just on the previous point, let's be very clear. There's a separate line of dialogue that takes place between the diplomats and the foreign ministers, and then there is the implanted media. Western Europe, if you don't believe it's woke, it is woke in its full ecosystem. That means media, the ministries, as well as the all adjacent advocacy groups are nothing but fully embedded woke ecosystem. So these questions emanate from the woke media. And Anthony Blinken, I listened to the interview, Anthony Blinken, when the question was directed especially around anti-West versus non-West, and flexibility on relationships and trade, and flexibility on partnerships. He said flexibility on options is good to have. It's not bad to have. To the journalist, we never said we are anti-West. We said we are non-West. We just simply said on an opportunistic basis, we do what we do that serves our countries very, very good. So Tony Blinken didn't want to answer that question, and Dr. Jaishankar answered that question, and for which Blinken had, and for which even the journalist, by the way, there was German foreign minister was also in the same meeting. German foreign
Yes.
minister, then the US foreign minister, US Secretary of State, and then the Indian foreign minister. He very subtly pointed out, go back and look at the historical relationship of the countries. What he was alluding to is US bombed the hell out of Germany. Today, Germany is a partner in the Second World
Interesting.
War.
Yeah.
Yeah. So therefore, so he's subtly pointing out to this, but this is a world, as you rightly said, these are elite universities, but all these elite universities have been completely cableized into woke jungles, if I have to use the phrase, Sriji.
Yes, indeed. And let's take a quick look at the next acquisition of India: 15 Patriot aircraft for the Navy and Coast Guard for coastal monitoring. So the last one is the most important. Taiwan Memorandum of Understanding about using India's workforce in Taiwan. 100,000 jobs was what was the number that was used. That's a first phase. Talk to us a little bit more, sir. Stretch this thing out, fill it out, sir.
February 16th, MOU was signed. Dr. Wang Yi meets on the sidelines and tells him, what the hell are you doing with Taiwan? You're going to send your people to the manufacturing factories? You're going to send the people to till the land for agriculture? You're going to send the people so that they can be in the nursing hospitals? What the hell you guys are doing? You don't know Taiwanese. So, Dr. Jaishankar said, MOU is signed. It's between Taiwan and India will train people and experiment and send people across to Taiwan. These people will get absorbed and they'll start. We will learn from it. We will further train people and send it. Deal is done. We have done a MOU. MOU is signed. Bad luck, Dr. Wang Yi. You are doing lots of deals, okay? So we never come and tell you what deals you should do. You should do. You are trying to kind of interfere with people, grazing, cattle grazing. Your PLA is doing. Why you ask? Why not you ask to stop? Why not you ask them to stop doing it? So I think he pushed back because Dr. Wang Yi, Dr. Jaishankar, and Ajit Doval have known each other. They work very well. They know what works. They don't know what works. So I think that this is going to be a combat. They know that none of these guys are going to yield their positions. It's very interesting. It's a very, very brave and bold and assertive move by India to formally sign an MOU, Sriji.
Yes, indeed. On a country that they don't recognize, which is an interesting story in itself. I'm not going to dwell on that. That's okay. Sir, GDPs. India is within striking distance of Japan. Talk to us a little bit, sir. This is just $100 billion. Sir, if India goes and imports some more Russian crude and then turns around, refines it, sells it for a huge profit, 100 billion, 200 billion should be easy, sir.
No, I think that let's look at three, four macro factors. India's exports has grown to about 770 or 780 billion dollars. With the currency and US dollar appreciating US dollar and interest rates, you're going to see more exports come out of India, Sriji. Okay, and already India's GDP growth rate is expected, in my view, to cross 7% for FY 24-25, not FY 24, FY 24-25. India runs on a different kind of financial year. So we are talking about, March 31st. So April 1st to March 31st kind of a timeline. So here, this is a calendar year, a February 24, but calendar year 2023 GDP numbers. Calendar year 2023 GDP numbers, India is at 4.112 trillion, is a very big number. Now, remember, depending on whichever way one calculates, when Modi assumed power, took charge in 2014, India was around $1.5 trillion. Almost close to $3 trillion has been added in 10 years of his power relative to what occurred in the prior 65 years. It's a very big jump in terms of the relative growth. So even if India is going to grow, let's say at 7% versus 7.5% or 8%, and Japan is going to go at 2%, that is the growth rate of Japan at best. It could be anything between 1 to 2%. You have a 5% differential on a 4 trillion. So India will bypass Japan. The question is, when will it bypass Germany and march its way towards the 5 trillion mark, which they have set themselves? I believe if the Modi government comes back to power, I think in 2025, India is very much within the sights or very close to bypassing Germany, but also hitting that 5 trillion mark, Sriji.
Sir, this China number is a joke. It is 7 trillion, sir, not 18 trillion. These are all numbers that are just made up by PFA, is what people say. The A stands for air, if you want to be nice about it, but it is some other word. That's how we talk in US when we are being candid. The PFA is A means something else. And that's the A that I mean, not the A of air. Let's take the next 11, next 10, please. Mexico is
So I
number
think that,
11. Russia, yes, sir.
no, keep going, Sriji.
No. I was just observing that this is more for completion, that how other countries are being listed here for GDP. One revelation that came to me, Sridharji, GDP is important among countries because that tells the other side the potential of a country to be able to consume a certain thing. For example, crude, right? These guys look at it and say, oh my God, so many people, they're all having, so scooters, motorcycles, cars. And then if it is natural gas, they all have, gas cylinders at home and all the stuff that used to be using coke and coking coal and wood, that's all being converted. So that tells you that GDP tells you the buying power of a country, isn't it?
Yep, it does tell, and it tells the economic might, and the country is on its march, and this is the country to which potential bilateral partnerships evolve. The two very important observations in the 11 to 20 number: South Korea and Mexico. They are, sooner or later they're going to eclipse. Especially South Korea is going to eclipse Russia. So I think Russia is going to be relegated to about a 13. Australia is a long way away. So I think Russia will be somewhere tucked on that 13, 14 position. I think Mexico and South Korea will move further up. The country that is not listed here, the country that is listed here is Indonesia. Indonesia will be another country which will surge past Russia because there's a lot of economic development programs and bilateral in the ASEAN, especially with Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, and India growing. You will see a lot of activity. There's also a trade agreement that is being discussed, not only with ASEAN, but Indonesia, specifically between India. So very interesting times ahead. Japan is investing significantly also in Indonesia, Sriji. So watch for Mexico, South Korea, Indonesia to be emerging and evolving. What happens in Russia? I mean, Russia, you need to go back and look at the Russian historical GDP. It's like a ding dong. It's all driven by 1, 2, 3 areas of activity: energy, food, and some minerals, very specific minerals that they have in possession. These 3 things drive Russian economy. But why does it go from 1.5 to 1.9, 1.9 to 1.5? Why does it kind of, ding dong in this battle? Go back and check your graphs. It is because of politicization of economy, and all under the control of one man, which is Vladimir Putin and his cables who are part of the ecosystem, Sriji.
Yes, indeed. And the interesting takeaway there is a rising tide lifts all the boats. So those countries who are rising, those are the ones, and the countries that are doing business with them, their GDPs also will grow faster than the others. Next one, please. In a major statement, the United States blasts United Nations and says that Hamas is a terrorist organization. IDF on Rafah invasion. It is inevitable and only method and force to be determined. Video show the alleged attack on Iran. So let's take a look at the first one, sir. The United States officially now has castigated UN because it has turned out that most of the people working in the UN agencies were actually peddling information, and they were working against Israel in the garb of aid.
They participated in October 7. They abetted in October 7 attacks. The evidence has come out, and United States has stated they have seen the evidence. Number one. Number two, that in that hospital, I forget the name of the hospital, they arrested more than 150 terrorists in Gaza over the
Right.
weekend. Okay, number three, the ceasefire, United States said, don't even bring it to UN. We're going to veto it. Number three. Number four, Netanyahu gets a huge boost from his government that basically says no kind of external influence. We have unqualified support to conclude and conduct, to make sure that we conclude this war with complete defeat of Hamas. There is no mechanism and we have no willingness to recognize a Palestinian state. Very important government resolution coming out over the weekend by the combined government, which shows and tells the resolve of the Israeli people to prosecute. So there's not going to be, let alone Gaza being administered by Hamas. There's nothing. Hamas is going to be taken out. Palestinian state will not happen. Ceasefire will not happen. Rafah invasion will occur, and the only thing that will be determined is the type of force and the process that they would use to do the Rafah invasion. And in the meanwhile, Egypt is trying to build a big wall, because otherwise it's going to say all these people are going to move into the Sinai. And Egypt has effectively said there is no question of creating a separate enclave for housing these Palestinian refugees. This is where the rubber hits the road in terms of where this war is going. Remember, we talked about this in earlier DGI shows, and we have stated very clearly that this war, Hamas will be taken out. They may have operations elsewhere, but Hamas will be out. Houthi will continue. It's a matter of time before Houthi is also taken. Houthis materials, which is namely all the things that Iran is now officially supplying via the ships, not only the guidance that they are providing on the ships to be targeted, will be taken out, Sriji. And the oil pipes burning in Israel, they call it as, Iranians call it as a fire, and it is believed these are Israeli attacks. There are videos, but there's no formal information as yet as to what exactly the nature of the cause of these fires from these pipelines.
For a few hours inside Iran, 70% of the petrol pumps stopped working a few weeks ago. I don't know if you guys remember that. And Israel said that it was a software hack attack on their software that manages all these petrol pumps. So Israel is hitting back in ways that is probably not as going and taking out some installations. So this is going to get ugly. I think Iran is beginning to feel the heat. I hope they end up throwing their mullahs. This guys are for 40 years. They've really gone in and ruined the country. And let's wait and see how that goes. Sir, inflation in the United States, inflation refuses to go down. The Fed says 2% is where we are happy. It's at 3.25 or 4% now. I don't remember the exact numbers. That means that no rate cuts for the rest of 2024, sir?
Well, inflation has risen to 3 The core inflation is at now 3.9% as opposed to 3.2%, Sriji. So your observation around 4% is correct. What is causing is what they call PPI, Producer Price Index. The Producer Price Index has actually gone up to 0.5% versus 0.3%. On an annualized basis, it is 0.9%. This is the cost that gets charged to items and goods produced. What is causing this? One, interest rates. Second, the cost of materials. And third, there's always labor costs. Okay, there's always labor costs, and there has been, labor rate, because of all the wage agreements and the unionization, there has been inflation in wages. So therefore, this is the reason why people were apprehensive that any rate increase is going to bring the inflation down, especially around the supply chain and the ecosystem of the economy, which is actually consumed by people at the end of the day, right? So the other number that also got a big headline is the retail sales came down by 0.8% for the month. So sales is coming down, the inflation numbers have gone up, and interest rate, 10-year interest rates is now at 4.46%, which means that currently they expect either a pause or maybe even a 25 basis point hike at this stage, because there is no other way that this 3.9% is come anywhere close to 2% unless Biden issues an edict to Janet Yellen and Dr. Powell.
Or they'll say that 3.95% is a new normal in inflation, sir. These people can say anything. It's just a matter of words, and who are we to say yes or no? But
Exactly.
Sridharji, today's session was extraordinarily informative. Thank you so much, sir. You put in a lot of effort and work into this. Viewers, we've had some connectivity challenges, which is why we couldn't do it in the last few days, and we had finally, we both were at a place where we could reasonably be assured of internet bandwidth. So, Sridharji, thank you so much. I think we're going to try and do it on Tuesday again. I'm not 100% sure because I'm traveling on Tuesday, and if I should be able to make it in time, Sridharji. I'll let you know. I think I should be able to make it in time. And viewers, again, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend and have a wonderful day.